Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So normally when I make these videos, I'm often talking about just my general life experiences, stuff that kind of applies to my voiceover work, but also you can apply generally. And today I want to talk more specifically about voice acting. In this case, I want to talk about 4 things that I love about voice acting that I think it has over other more traditional forms of acting, as far as like stage acting, on camera work, etc. So obviously I run in a circle with a lot of different voice actors, and people talk about the difficulties and challenges that come into play when you're trying to make a full-time living off of voiceover. And I totally get that. And even right now, as I've been a voice actor for 3 years, I've been full-time previously, but I'm not even working full-time now because I've found other opportunities that have, made more money for me in the meantime. But it's absolutely a challenge to, if you want to decide to go out and make that your full-time career. That being said, there's still certainly a number of advantages that come with trying to make a career off of voice acting that make it very accessible, especially as compared to other more traditional forms of acting. So, my top 4 things. I was going to try and make a list of 5, because 5 is like a YouTube number, but I could only come up with 4. There was a 5th one, but I didn't like it as much, so I just decided to toss it. So getting into the list. So first one is the barrier to entry and the ease of accessibility. And this one really applies to a lot of things nowadays, just with the nature of social media and the internet being what it is. If you want to start a business or learn a skill, it really is easier than it's ever been in so many ways in the history of time to try and do one of those things. If you want to become a graphic designer, if you want to become a musician, if you want to become obviously a voice actor or a YouTuber, or you want to start up an art project or something, you have so many more resources available to you now than you ever did before. And particularly, I say that the barrier to entry is even lower for voiceover, especially compared to other forms of acting. And this is just because it's so easy to just get going and get the equipment that you need to get going, and then just get on your first project, or even creating your own project and putting it out on social media or YouTube or something. Like when I started voiceover about 3.5 years ago, there's a website called Casting Call Club, which has a lot of volunteer projects, and I didn't even make a lot of money off of voiceover for the first time, but there were plenty of opportunities just to go out there and get experience. There were so many people who were starting up small YouTube channels who had like a fan fiction story, or they had some other short video that they wanted to put together that needed voices for their character. So it was a very easy thing for having next to no experience with any form of acting, not knowing much about microphones or equipment. I was able to get on some projects and start building up my experience that way. And that's certainly true that, you can get into acting a lot easier. You start up a TikTok channel or a YouTube channel or whatnot and start putting skits together. But you can absolutely get higher places in your voiceover career in ways with barriers that don't exist, or you don't have the barriers existing there as you would in more traditional forms of acting. So like for me, I never had any traditional acting education. I didn't go to college for it. I didn't have a degree. I don't work through an agent right now, but I was able to make, for at least a time, enough money to, support my cost of living completely off of voiceover. And I think if you had wanted to do that through more traditional forms of acting, being on camera, being on stage, would have a much more difficult go with it. Number 2 thing that voiceover has over other forms of acting is the potential access to the volume of work. Now, if you're I can't speak for every language-speaking voice actor out there, but if you speak English, particularly American English, there is absolutely an international market that you can tap into of people who want American English voiceover over their projects. And I've worked with people all over the world for this sort of thing. And because you can work terrestrially, remotely, I've just got my booth in my house. 99.9% of the time, I'm recording stuff right there. You don't have to be in a physical location most of the time to record for a lot of these kind of jobs. And that is a tremendous advantage when you're trying to book work, when you're trying to get on projects and continue to do and be involved in things that pay the bills. Whereas obviously with commercials or being on TV or being on stage or something, you have to physically be in proximity to all the action that's happening, to be on stage, to work with all the rest of the crew and stuff. And obviously there are times in voiceover where people will prefer that you go into studio, but most of the time there's so much access to work that you don't even need to be able to be in a physical location. Like, it really behooves you in this time to just live any place that you can on earth with the lowest cost of living, with decent internet access, and you can have access to a tremendously large international market of potential voiceover work that can be much more difficult to replicate when you have to actually be in a physical location and be in front of a camera or be in front of an audience to do. Point number 3 about voiceover in comparison to other forms of acting is that in addition to not being linked to a specific location, you're also often not tied down to a specific time of day. Once again, with more traditional forms of acting, you've got to be on stage at a specific time when the crew's there, when everybody else is working. Whereas with voiceover, there are certainly times, especially for bigger jobs, where clients will want to, provide a live direct session, then you'll have to coordinate with people. But for a lot of my work, once again, I'm just given the script, I'm given a time when it needs to be turned in, and then I'm free to just record it whenever I have time available in my schedule. And that is a tremendous advantage, a tremendous benefit to be able to just have a list of projects and being able to record them when it just makes sense for me to do so, and not have to be linked down to, or not have to be tied down to, being there for a specific rehearsal for a specific time all the time. The fact that I can completely mold my day around when it makes most sense for me to balance it with all of my other things, tremendously awesome benefit. And that can certainly be a challenge when, you're stuck inside a sound box and you've got to cultivate your imagination and your visualization muscles to really feel like you're the character in the scene, in the setting that you have to be, and make it feel real to you to give a genuine performance. But that being said, there's so many other things that don't get accounted for in voice acting that I just never have to worry about. So biggest one, first one that comes off is that I don't have to look remotely like the character that I'm portraying, right? I don't have I have a body type, but that really doesn't come into play when you're doing voiceover. Like, it doesn't matter that, I don't have hair. It doesn't matter that maybe I'm a little bit older, too young. It doesn't matter that I'm not in a certain type of shape. I don't ever need to, spend time with a personal trainer to, get like an X-Men or get like a Marvel Avengers body. Or I never have to gain weight to be a big guy or lose weight to be some disheveled, scrawny person. That's just never a thing that comes into play. And I'm never going to have to, learn how to do like sword fighting. I'm never going to have to be like a stunt person. I'm never going to be at risk of getting involved in an onset injury because I'm, trying to do some weird action thing. While there's certainly singing involved sometimes, I'm a singer myself, I'm never going to have to learn how to dance or memorize choreography. Some of this might come into play if you're doing motion capture and stuff. I know a couple people who it'll be for a video game where, they're going through the motions of their character in addition to the voices. But that being said, there are just so many barriers that don't exist when you're in voiceover compared to other forms of acting. That makes it just so much more accessible to get into a lot of different projects and get into a lot of different roles that you might not have been able to get into if you had to be the face of the character that you were also portraying. And that's a tremendous, tremendous advantage that I love about voiceover that I just can't really get elsewhere. And of course, wrapping this all up, just to clarify, I have nothing against actors who aren't voice actors or who are, acting on stage or acting on film. That's freaking awesome. I love watching movies. I've always been a movie guy and I love the kind of work that they do. But from a quality of life standpoint, from trying to find that work-life balance and finding what works for me and what has made it work so well for me that I've been able to do this thing is all of these advantages that are unique to this particular sort of medium that I wouldn't have been able to if I had tried to pursue acting in a different place. And one of the reasons why I continue to love doing what I do and why it fits so well with my lifestyle. All right, there's my thoughts for the day. Thanks everyone for stopping by, and I'll see you next week. Take care.